This is WFYI News Now. It's August 21st, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, the National Consumer Price Index falls, but some prices in the Midwest have gone up. We'll find out how Indiana is doing as it starts the second year of its budget cycle. And Indiana University students will soon be assisting defense attorneys and experts as they work to free falsely convicted Hoosiers from prison.
We'll be able to bring and involve students right from the very beginning, and that's been a core part of our mission from the start.
Those stories coming up, but first, the LEAP pipeline project has created a tug-of-war over the water supply in Tippecanoe County between residents there and those who want to create an industrial district in Lebanon. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Rebecca Thiel reports the Indiana Chamber of Commerce says conflicts like this show the state needs to start water planning now.
A new report by the Chamber says there's plenty of water in Indiana right now, but with central Indiana growing and proposed development in other parts of the state, there may not be enough to meet demand in the future. Jack Whitman is a hydrologist with Intera, which helped prepare the report. He says Indiana has been slowly working to complete regional water studies, but the LEAP project has shown the state needs regional and state water plans.
So it helps us see what other things can we do to make sure that we already anticipated these questions and we're ready with information and data.
Among other things, the Chamber recommends putting one team in charge of state water planning, better monitoring Indiana's water resources, and funding water research. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebecca Thiel.
Last month, the National Consumer Price Index fell slightly below 3% for the first time since 2021. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Tamoria Cunningham reports prices are slightly lower in general across the Midwest, but some sectors have seen increases.
The Consumer Price Index is a measure of the average change over time in the prices paid by urban consumers for a market basket of goods and services. For July, the Midwest CPI is at 2.7%, a slight increase from June, which stood at 2.5%. Rachel Blakeman directs the Purdue University Fort Wayne Community Research Institute. Blakeman says since prices for most things have increased in recent years, consumers have started to decrease their spending.
As consumers start to scale back, then that's going to prompt companies to scale back their prices.
The cost to purchase a new or used vehicle has also gone down year over year. Rent increases in the Midwest remain high, however, currently standing at over 6% annually, which is about 1% higher than the national average. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Tamoria Cunningham.
And Indiana started off its new fiscal year on a positive note, collecting a little more revenue than expected. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Brandon Smith reports the state is 2% ahead of its spending plan as it begins the second year of its budget cycle.
Indiana collected about $30 million more than the budget plan projected in July. That's largely down to individual income taxes, which came in nearly 8% better last month than expected. And the month's positive overall performance is in spite of sales tax revenues, which continue to scuffle. Sales tax collections missed the mark almost all of the last fiscal year, and while that tax type did grow in July 2024 compared to the previous year, it only grew by 0.2%, far less than the 3 months before it. Most of Indiana's yearly revenues are collected in the second half of the fiscal year. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Brandon Smith at the State House.
And for our final story today, Indiana University students will soon be assisting defense attorneys and experts as they work to free falsely convicted Hoosiers from prison. The Indiana Innocence Project is the newest franchise of the national organization known for using DNA evidence to exonerate wrongly convicted prisoners. The group says its work has freed hundreds of prisoners across the country. The newest project is affiliated with the Morris School of Law and the Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice, both in Bloomington.
And what's great is that we have the support of both the chairs and the deans, and all the rest of it are ready to go.
Criminology faculty member Marla Sandys is the founding member of the project, which held its first event in Indianapolis over the weekend. Sandys teaches a course on the death penalty at IU Bloomington and previously worked with students on innocence claims at the McKinney Law School at IU Indianapolis.
We'll be able to bring and involve students right from the very beginning, and that's been a core part of our mission from the start.
Sandys says students will perform a variety of roles, such as processing assistance requests, helping with investigations, and reviewing transcripts. Initial funding is being provided by the Herbert Simon Family Foundation. That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.